So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Is It That Bad, where we take a look at an album and we take albums that maybe at the time they could have had mixed reviews, or we see how they held up like years later. And for today's pick, we have Chili's pick, Live Listen Erase. He picked an album by the band Machine Head, and it's Burn My Eyes, which came out in 1994. So this is going to turn 30 next year. So we're if people are mad that we picked this one, blame Chili. He picked this one. I would have picked Catharsis or another for Machine Head because that one was pure shit. But I'm like, okay, we'll talk about Burn My Eyes from 1994. So today we're a panel of four. So we have joining us back again, Chili from Live Listen Erased. How are you, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on the channel.
We have JC Rock and Metal Reviews joining us again, and he's got obviously the best beard in YouTube by far.
Yeah,
I'm a close second.
Yeah, no man, you don't beat JC's beard. And we have a new person in the channel. His name is Lorenzo, and I've known him because he's a friend from my cousin here in Puerto Rico, and we've done some podcasts back in the day discussing music, and I told him, hey, do you want to join? And he said, hell yeah. So Lorenzo, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Excited about talking about Machine Head. It's strange. It's one of those bands that you don't really remember that much sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, Rob Flynn can be controversial. So you know the drill, people. We do 3 rounds. The first round, we talk about our initial thoughts listening to the album. Then we do round 2, where we pick the 3 songs that are maybe the weakest, and we say why. And then we do the first round, where we give our final thoughts, and we vote thumbs up or thumbs down. So since this was Chili's pick, I'm going to have him start. So Chili, your initial thoughts with this album?
All right. So I guess it is very quickly. I just want to address your listeners who are going, why not Catharsis? Well, that would be a 2-minute episode. We know the answer already. But I wanted to pick something a bit more controversial. And to me, this is the album to choose. To discuss Machine Head, I have to go for a little bit of a story time. Sorry, guys, I'll try to make this quick. But Machine Head was a band that I started getting into in the early 2000s, got a few tracks under my belt, and really liked them. It wasn't until about 2007 when I discovered The Blackening, and I really did get into their music. From there, I bought The Burning Red, and I also got my hands on this first album that we are looking at, Burn My Eyes. And they're 3 very different albums in Machine Head's history, I guess, when you're looking over it. Depends where you stand as a fan. But yes, this is my brief history on Machine Head and how I came across them. So yeah, Burn My Eyes was my 3rd album that I ever listened to that was Machine Head. And, I'm first listening to it. Keep in mind, I've obviously got The Blackening under my belt and replayed that about 400 times. And I'm like, this is different. I mean, I know The Burning Red was as well, but it's this real stark comparison compared to the others. And I know it was their debut album, but I wasn't really big on it. I didn't enjoy it as much. And I know a lot of fans are like screaming through the monitors right now because, this is the best one they've probably done. And there's a massive fan base for the debut album. But I just don't see it that way. I just don't really think it's as strong as what people say. In other words, I'm saying it's overrated, And yeah, first playthrough has some interesting tracks, but it also has a lot of crap in there. That's basically my initial thoughts on this record.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting one to talk about because I've seen a lot of videos like they're like almost like giving like that, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. So it's I agree with Catharsis. Like everyone would have known the answer. Like people are like, I'm gonna go watch this video. I know the answer. Yeah. So JC, what your initial thoughts with Burn My Eyes?
this was one of those bands that I was never really into them a lot. I guess I watched like some of the songs if they appeared on MTV or they were on the radio or something, but I don't think I bought this back then. Like this one came out in '94, so yeah, I was listening to a lot of grunge back then. I mean, I like Pantera, I like Prong. I guess that would be a similar band, but
Mhm.
I think this is one of like the pioneers of like that like groove metal where they were the kind of almost like groove into an industrial. So this album was kind of I guess ahead of its time, or it was unique at the time when it came out. But with that being said, I've never been like a really like big fan of this band. It just didn't really like they never really clicked with me a lot. But I do like some of their songs. I was more into like Prong and Pantera, but that's it. I don't have like a lot of strong feelings for this right now, but I'll give you more thoughts later. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Lorenzo?
I remember actually my first album from this band was The Burning Red, because I mean The Burning Red came out in, I think it was 99, around that time. And basically I was just getting in high school, so it was like, you know, the angstiness and the nu metalish stuff, you know. So that was my introduction to Machine Head. And usually when I hear a new band, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let me check their back catalog, you know. So I got to the first album, Burn My Eyes, and I was like, I thought it was way better than Burn My Eyes. But I agree with what was said already, that this is one of those albums that seems to be, in my mind, overhyped, overrated, but also underrated. It's like a lot of fans hated the idea of, you know, that Vince Flynn, Vince, I think, or Flynn, he came from Violence, and they were expecting another Violence, another thrash, you know, Bay Area thrash band. And so they listened to this, and which is more like post thrash groove metal thing, and they didn't like it. so they trashed it. And I mean, I get it if you're not into that style, but I don't think it's as bad as some people say. I don't think it's as good as other people say. I'm like, it's like in the middle right there. That's basically what my listening experience was.
Yeah, interesting. So for me, I was reading when this album came out, they were trying to appease to the thrash metal, because it has some thrash metal elements, but also that groove of Pantera. When I actually remember listening to this back in the day, I didn't buy it, but my cousin used to burn a lot of albums in my iPod. He was my music dealer. I didn't have a drug dealer. I have a music dealer. It was my cousin, and he put everything on my iPod, because I didn't have much that I couldn't buy every fucking album. So I remember I had that one. He put Machine Head, but I hadn't listened to this in a while. So when Shirley told me to listen about this album, to me, Machine Head, their crowning achievement is The Blackening. I'm like, The Blackening to me is awesome. If you would have told me, let's do The Blackening, I would have done like, you're crazy, man. The Blackening is awesome. But Burn My Eyes, I didn't remember that album that much. I remember the song Davidian and the music video, because Rob Flynn has the corn. He's got the cornrow like look, and he's like looking all tough. And I get it. A lot of people gave him a lot of crap because he was like into, like, when I listened to Burn My Eyes. Also something very interesting is this was the best-selling debut album for Roadrunner until Slipknot put out their debut record. So this album was huge. But yeah, like when I listen to this, this is almost it has something of like a new metal vibe to it too. And this is like in the infancy of new metal, because this came out in '94 when Korn had like the first album. So it had, because it has some rapping in some songs, and it's very raw sounding. And I was seeing a music video of Metal Injection, and some people saying how good the production was, and I was like, it doesn't sound like Saint Anger, but it doesn't sound that great production wise, at least to me in my ears. I don't, but it didn't sound that great in production when I listened to it. So my initial thoughts, like listening to it now more, is like it's an interesting record. I think it's got a lot of people may overhype it, but I also wouldn't trash it. So I'm like in the middle. So it was good to revisit it. So now we're going to round two. So we're gonna pick 3 tracks. So Chili, what 3 tracks stand out for you as being the not so good ones?
So we're gonna, yeah, okay. So the not so good ones we're gonna begin with here. When you go over this record, I do have to mention as well, there is the live version of this album that is available. They re-recorded it in 2018 live in some kind of recording studio. Pretty much just one take, the whole album. And it's interesting because, you know, you go back to it, it sounds very different. The mid ranges are better compared to the early stuff. And obviously Robb Flynn is a very loud person. So it's a bit interesting hearing the banter between the tracks and stuff like that. And there are some tracks that they get, well, most of the tracks they do a lot better than the original, I think. But then there are just some tracks that it just didn't land. Now, as far as tracks that didn't land for me, I'm going to say, first up, None But My Own, I thought was a weak track. Just drags on and, you know, it doesn't really do it for me. The Rage to Overcome as well, I didn't particularly like that. The drum outro, however, is very good. I'm Your God Now as well, just kind of goes on for too long. And Realize, which I know isn't really a song. It's just this.
That's like an intro.
Yeah, at the very end of the album. It's, from what I understand though, Robb Flynn was asked about this track and he said we wanted to be like Ministry, and you know, you're like, okay, I guess why bother though, because yeah, there's a lot of artists that you're trying to influence, you know, being influenced on here. Sorry, Pantera is obviously bled through here, Sepultura to a degree, and obviously there's that Ministry influence which didn't really flare up ever again, thank Christ. And I just didn't really like that. You know, oh, here's a bunch of vocals from what was it? It was the LA riots from 2 years earlier. That was 2 years ago. Why are you bringing that shit up now in '94? I mean, we've got other bands who brought that stuff up back in '92. You can think of like Rage Against the Machine or something like that down road.
Because he was keeping it real.
Oh, of course, yeah. I think Realize is just such a weak track, and that's the track they left off on the live recording. Thank fuck for that. So yeah, those are the weakest tracks. I'll come back obviously for my favorite tracks for that, but yeah,
Awesome.
They're the weakest tracks to me.
Yeah. So what about you, JC? What are your 3 least favorite tracks?
I'll go with track 3, 1,000 Lies. I think it's a little slow, and the vocals are kind of like rapping almost. I think for that reason I didn't like it that much. Another one, definitely Realize. I actually used to like that song, but I think it's, as a standalone track, it just doesn't really go anywhere. It's kind of like just music and just those sound bites from like, it's like the news, the riots from like you were saying. So I mean, really, like I think that one didn't really like age well. I think I used to like it, but it just doesn't really like stand alone as a track. And I'll pick one more. I guess track 8, Blood for Blood. I don't know. It almost sounded like early like metalcore. It was okay. It just you know, it didn't really do much for me. It wasn't as memorable as some of the other tracks, which I do like. there are other tracks that I like in here, which I'll talk about later. But that's it. Those are my three. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Lorenzo?
Well, I agree. I did not like A Thousand Lies. I thought it was such a weird switch from the first two songs. It's just it was jarring for me. And as I don't like Flynn's style of rapping, so I don't think he has a good cadence. I don't think he has, so anytime he raps, I'm like, I'm out of here. But I
Better than
also
Fred Durst.
I actually think I prefer Fred Durst.
I mean, at least Fred Durst, he probably knows he's not very good.
He knows his limits.
I also was not a big fan of A Nation on Fire, and it's just, I think it had some grooves and all that, but it didn't catch me. I was having actually a hard time finding songs that I hated, like just hated. I also realized I didn't even pick it because I thought it was like a throwaway song already. So realize. It's also weird placement in the album. It's just strange.
Maybe
So
they could have started the album with that.
it's just
Yeah.
it's just weird. I don't get it. The next to last song, I don't know, just disconnects the last song from the rest of the album. It's just strange.
Yeah, it is strange. So yeah, you pick your third three songs. So I think that leaves me, and I pick A Thousand Lies too because their rapping is bad, and he didn't do it for the Nookie. So yeah, it's like rap. It's bad rapping, but I think it's worse when because I think he thought he was being good, because Fred Durst he's just like messing around, but it's pretty bad rapping, and also his kind of rapping is not like the timing is off. Like I can't rap for shit, but yeah, it sounds like out of time, and yeah, it was such a. I gotta say, Davidian and Old are awesome tracks. So that third one, it was really like what we call in Puerto Rico, me bajó el moco. Like yeah, it's like our mucus came out. It's like, it was like after two awesome songs, then you have that one. It's like, then I would say to pick different songs. I think I don't like the ending song that much. Block. He goes like block. I'm like, okay, block it, man. I didn't pick realize because I just don't even consider that a song. I'm like, that's like just a weird interlude, and it's like when he was keeping it real. It's like when keeping it real goes wrong. Yeah, so that went wrong. So I don't even consider that a track. So a third track that I would pick, I think, is none but my own. I just thought it was kind of boring, and didn't do like nothing that after A Thousand Lies, that one didn't, like, you need like a pick me up, and that didn't do it. So those are my three tracks plus the bonus, the track that is the weirdest interlude placing ever. Like they could have had that like at the start and just have it like be like a minute or 30 seconds, and it would have made sense for the video. But oh well, who knows what was going through Rob Flynn's mind. So now we're going to the third and final round where we give our last thoughts and we vote on it. So Chili, your final thoughts on this one and your vote.
Oh, we're doing the three best tracks as well from here?
Oh, that's what the final thoughts are for.
I misunderstand you, sorry. So, look, I'm going to actually play devil's advocate a bit here and say I don't mind A Thousand Lies. I think it's actually one of the stronger tracks on the offer. This might be because I grew up listening to Limp Bizkit and my standards for rap are very low. So, listening to Rob Flynn, I'm like, Fred Durst, you're back again. It's just, I don't know. Which is actually kind of odd that you bring up block and that block kind of word thing, because I was listening to the first Limp Bizkit album and I just thought of Clunk when he's just singing that clunk, and I'm like, oh yeah, a bit of comparisons almost around that same time as well. But anyway, I thought 1,000 Lives was a really good track. Obviously, the first two tracks are just amazing songs. Davidian, and Old, which I believe the lyrics from Old take the album's cues from. I think one of the lines is "Burn My Eyes." I could be wrong there, but those two tracks are fantastic. And on top of that, there's Death Church and A Nation on Fire, which for me is just absolutely incredible. I want to bring it back to the live recordings and say you've got to listen to the 2018 live recordings, in particular those first couple of tracks, and you can just feel that rage. And also, if you are in an angry mood, this is a really good album to start listening to, because I enjoyed it much more when I was in a very frustrating situation. I was blasting this full volume. Yeah, that relaxed me. So those are the tracks, I guess, that I would pick as the strongest one. As far as would I erase it? No, I don't think I could bring myself to erasing this album. I would keep it. I can't bring myself, for whatever bad tracks are on this, they're not horrendous, especially compared to some of the other stuff they would have released further down the track. But I am definitely in the mindset that this is an overrated album compared to what a lot of people say. And I don't think anyone can change my mind on that. And I think anyone who might agree with me, you're probably in the band camp of I heard The Blackening first and everything since. And if you listen to The Blackening first and then came to this album, it's very different gears, especially the stuff between those albums up until The Blackening. There's weird shit going down there. But if you're listening to The Blackening first, or before you listen to Burn My Eyes, it's vastly different. Blackening obviously was such a superior album in my mind, actually one of the top 10 albums of the decade. I'm going on record to say that. And when they went into that record, they just said, we want to write something that's like the Master of Puppets of us. They came in with that mindset, no dead air. And I think they nailed it with The Blackening. So unfortunately, when I listened to The Blackening, I might have soiled myself to Burn My Eyes. So for me, I can't erase it. I would keep it, but I don't think it's as good as everyone just rants on about it.
Okay, yeah, that's a good analysis. What about you, JC?
Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up. I mean, I like most of the album. I mean, I think, and the songs that I mentioned in the previous round, I don't really hate. I just thought they were like weaker ones. But I think this is an album that I go back to every now and then. I think it's pretty good. I like Davidian. I think that song has held up very well. The middle of the album is like really good when it goes from like Death Church and then like Nation of Fire up until like I'm Your God Now. That was a really good one. Like track number 9. And then like the end when it goes to Realize and then the block, it kind of like takes a little dip. But overall, I think this album does stand up. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to their other albums. I haven't listened to everything from this band. It's a lot better than Catharsis. Maybe not as good as Blackening, but I don't think it's bad. So a thumbs up for me. Yeah.
How dare you insult Catharsis? That's a great album.
Best thing ever written.
Well, even the album cover, it's suffering. There's blood. Yeah, it's an atrocious album. So, what about you, Lorenzo? What are your final thoughts on this one?
I think I agree mostly with what everybody has been saying. I think all across the board, I would keep it thumbs up. As I agree, I don't think it's as probably as groundbreaking or as trend setting or as great or masterpiece level album as some people claim it is, but I just think it's a good solid album. I love Death Church. I hadn't listened to that song in a while, and I was like, whoa, I'm surprised I don't have this song on my playlist. So Death Church was really solid. I actually really like Blood for Blood because there was no thrash on this album until that song actually came in. Uh, so that I was surprised again because this album changes moods a lot. So so that was a nice surprise. Davidian, of course, I think it's a great song, and all think it's a great song. So I think it's mostly a solid album, just a couple of clunkier tracks. So thumbs up.
Yeah, so that leaves me. So I agree with Chile on like, yeah, maybe it's overhyped, but it's not bad. I think the weakest thing on this album for me is the production, because it sounds so raw sometimes. But I think that was what they were going for, because it's got like that new metal aesthetic to it, and the group metal. And it did sound sometimes like Pantera. I know that there's a lot of people that love Pantera, but I may be in the minority here. But I've always thought that Pantera is a little overrated. A lot of people like, how dare you say that Pantera is overrated?
Got cancelled. Sorry, everyone.
I do. I'm not putting my name on those words.
Well, that's just I'm not saying that Pantera is bad, but sometimes they have been very overhyped. And with this Machine Head, yeah, this is an overhyped record, but it's I'm also with Team Chile on The Blackening. To me, that's when I really got into the band, with The Blackening, because I thought The Blackening is just an amazing album. All the way through. It's like he says, like, I like the comparison. It's like the Master of Puppets, but for the next generation. I don't think it's as good as, I'm sorry, I still prefer Master of Puppets, but The Blackening is a really great album. So Burn My Eyes, it's pretty solid, and it's a solid debut. It has just a few tracks that I thought I didn't hate them as well. I just thought they weren't as good. But the really strong songs like Davidian, Death Church, I'm Your God Now, Blood for Blood, I think that's the most thrash metal song on the record, are really good. So to me, I give it a thumbs up as well. So there you have it. The four of us have said that Burn My Eyes by Machine Heads is not that bad, but it's also a little bit, I think it's a little bit overhyped, but not bad. So we want to know from you people, what do you think about Burn My Eyes by Machine Head? Comment, what are your favorite tracks, and how do you think this album has aged now that it's like 29 years old? So I'm gonna do, like, we're almost at the end of the year, so I think I'm gonna do maybe 1 or 2 more episodes of Is It That Bad, and then we're gonna return at the beginning of the year. So I was thinking for the next review, maybe I would like to tackle an album by Suicide Silence. The one that they released, I think it was in 2018, where they did the new metal thing. So I think that would be an interesting album to go back to, and maybe talk to, and maybe we could do a poll. And for the last episode of this year, we could do an album that the people pick. We'll throw in some names, and whichever gets the most vote will be the final episode of Is It That Bad for this year. But the next one, I would like to do Suicide Silence. That would be an interesting one. So if you like the videos that we're putting out, do not forget to subscribe to my friend Live Listen Erased. He's almost at 600, and he does the 5-minute reviews. He also does, the Live Listen Erased, where he erases bands, and it's pretty cool channel. So give him a sub. JC Rock and Metal Reviews. Obviously, he does album rankings, album reviews. He gives history lessons. So if you want like proper information, subscribe to him. And my friend Lorenzo, I don't think he has a YouTube channel, but just comment. What do you think about him?
Press F in the chat.
All he said was crap.
I'm like Lorenzo, bad.
Lorenzo, press F, everyone.
Like-
Respect.
like-
Pay your respects to Lorenzo.
Lorenzo, if he makes a YouTube channel, like subscribe to him just because. But right now he doesn't have. But we may have him back because he's good to talk about music. So, and finally, my channel, The Shield on a Couch, we're nearing the 1,000K. So please share this. I want to get to 1,000K to get to more people, and obviously I have big plans for 2024. I want to do Shield Dude on a Couch merch. If you saw, I have a new logo, and that new logo, I could see shirts, I could see mugs. I would like to do some merch, so I need to get money to do that shit. So you need to watch and subscribe so I can do that. I have 2 kids to feed, so please do it.
Make
So
sure to vote for Pantera. Then he'll do that one.
yes, and I'm sorry that I said for people, I once did a video about when Pantera, that they did the reunion, and I did a video calling, "Is it a cash grab?" And I stand by that. I still think it's a cash grab, people, because I'm sorry, but the Dimebag and Vinny hated Phil Anselmo. It's a known fact. They hated his guts, and they didn't want to continue Pantera with him. But that's another video. That video is somewhere. Maybe I'll share it so people can watch it. The Pantera fans. And until next time, for Is It That Bad? We'll see you on the next time. And this is Hector, the Shield on a Couch. And we'll see you next time here on the couch. Thank you and good night.